only show that enables women to share their own secrets and insights to wellness, one story at a time.
Paul, and happy birthday. It's Paul's birthday today.
Yes, it is. We have to call that out.
I had to.
Send cards and letters to...
We're celebrating here in the station today. This is Diane McConaughey from My Jane. Welcome to My Jane, My Story. And it's a beautiful, breezy day here in Southern California. We were just talking about the snow in Oregon, so thankful to be here with a little bit of sun.
The most amazing story. I'm glad you brought this guest back. I was just telling her story again this morning, not knowing she was coming in again. The most amazing, inspirational story I've heard in a long time.
Thank you, Paul. I know I'm so excited to have her here again today. But let me tell you a little bit about My Jane. Our mission is to unite and empower women through community, education, and exploration of cannabis solutions to address our biggest health concerns like sleep, pain, and stress. There's so much overwhelming information out there, and so we decided we needed to come together and share stories by creating My Jane, My Story. This is a place to talk about real life experiences like the one we're going to talk about today, so we can be better and do better by helping one another. Every journey is unique and every path is very special, so we are extremely grateful to have our guest here to share with us. This is a non-judgmental space where every question is necessary to learn and shift our perspective on this plant. So again, today we have a return guest. Her cannabis success story is one of the most powerful I've heard as well. Some of you may remember Allie Beecher. She is our 3-time cancer survivor. When we did the show with Allie, it was simply so amazing. I wanted to bring her back and talk a little more in depth about her journey with cancer and cannabis. You can go to myjane.com and listen to that episode. It's episode 14 and hear her full story. Allie is a registered respiratory therapist and a 3-time cancer survivor. I can't stop saying that because it's just so amazing. She had a very difficult cancer journey, and at the age of 30, she was told she had a 15% chance of survival. She turned to cannabis medicine and changed her diet because all the reforms of conventional treatment had failed. Within 3 months of using cannabis and eating healthy, it was determined there was no evidence of disease in her body. She has been in remission from stage 4 cancer for 2.5 years. She continues her work as a respiratory therapist and loves to hike, listen to music, and play with her rescue dogs, which I see them on Facebook all the time. They're so cute. So today we're going to talk about cancer and depression and how cannabis played a huge role in Allie's healing. This is a subject that doesn't seem to be brought to light too often when a patient is going through cancer because all efforts and focus are on the healing the physical body. Until a person is diagnosed with cancer themselves, it is very tough to understand what someone goes through with this heavy diagnosis. Depression is different from normal sadness. Some cancer patients may have a higher risk of depression. For every 10 patients diagnosed with cancer, about 2 patients become depressed. The numbers of men and women affected are about the same, and a person diagnosed with cancer faces many stressful issues. These may include fear of death, changes in life plans, changes in body image and self-esteem, changes in day-to-day living, and worry about money and legal issues. In a first-of-a-kind study, Washington State University scientists examined how people's self-reported levels of stress, anxiety, and depression were affected by smoking different strains and quantities of cannabis at home. Their work, published in the Journal of Affective Disorders, suggests smoking cannabis can significantly reduce short-term levels of depression, anxiety, and stress. It marks one of the first attempts by U.S. scientists to assess how cannabis, with varying concentrations of the chemical compounds THC and CBD, affect medicinal cannabis users' feelings of well-being when smoked outside of the laboratory. Existing research on the effects of cannabis on depression, anxiety, and stress are very rare and have almost exclusively been done with orally administered THC pills in a laboratory, said Carrie Cutler, clinical assistant professor of psychology at WSU and lead author of this study. What is unique about our study is that we looked at actual inhaled cannabis by medical marijuana patients who were using it in the comfort of their own homes as opposed to a laboratory. For example, the WSU research team found that 1 puff of cannabis, high in CBD and low in THC, was optimal for reducing symptoms of depression. 2 puffs of any type of cannabis was sufficient to reduce symptoms of anxiety, while 10 or more puffs of cannabis high in CBD and high in THC produced the largest reductions in stress. A lot of consumers seem to be under the false assumption that more THC is always better, Cutler said. Our study shows that CBD is also a very important ingredient in cannabis and may augment some of the positive effects of THC. The researchers found that while both sexes reported decreases in all three symptoms after using cannabis, women reported a significantly greater reduction in anxiety following cannabis use. I thought that was a really great study, so I wanted to share that with you. So, hi, Allie.
Hi, Diane.
Thanks
you
for
having
coming
me
back. It's
Yeah.
so good to see you again. And
You too.
can you give everybody just a short recap on how things have been since you were last here in August?
Things have been great. I had another surgery at
That's
the
right.
end of August.
Right.
So what they did was they debulked my face because I had a total jaw replacement. So they debulked my face, and that surgery was not very hard at all compared to the previous one, where it took about 4 months for the wound to close on the first
And you've
one.
had how many surgeries now to this point?
For the cancer one,
Quite a few.
about 5, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, 5 surgeries, all, well, 4 of them were for the face, and then the one was to remove the cancer from the lung.
Okay. Any more coming up? Or are you done?
I think I'm done.
Yay!
Knock on wood.
Good.
I think I'm done. I don't
Good.
have anything. The only thing I have left is to get these braces off because I needed to put them on for the surgery, but I just found out today they'll come off in June, so I'm very excited to
Yay.
really be done with everything.
Yeah, because I mean, it's been a journey for you.
Correct.
I mean,
Yeah.
to put it mildly, it's been quite a journey. So, so let's go back then a little bit to when you went through this, like when you were first diagnosed. Can you remember what went through your mind, how you felt? I mean, did you experience some of the same stressors that were mentioned above?
Yes, I remember I was diagnosed, different times because I was, it went away, or I got it, it went away, it came back.
Yeah.
So I remember exactly where I was every single time the doctor called me and told me that that it had come back. So the very first time I was in college, I was in my dorm room sitting at my little, they, provide you a little desk and chair. I was sitting in my chair and the doctor called and said, the biopsy we took, I don't know what it is. I had to send it out for special screening at UCSF. And I was like, ooh,
That doesn't sound good.
Exactly. I was like, crap, that doesn't sound good. But I didn't think much of it at that time because everyone had told me that I was being paranoid about it. And then I was in the same chair when he called me and told me what it was. And I just remember sitting there and hanging up with him and crying, and my roommates came in and asked me if I was okay, and I said no, they just told me I have this cancer in my face, and I don't know what I do from here. My family was 500 miles away, and I didn't know anybody where I was going to school except for my roommates. So that was a tough blow.
Yeah.
And then it went away for 10 years, and then I was at my house. I lived in Anaheim at the time, and I was in my living room, and the phone rang, and I picked it up, and the doctor said, we have your biopsy results, and it is a recurrence of the cancer, and it's growing quickly, and we have to do something. And I remember crying to him and saying, I told you guys, I told you something was wrong. And then I hung up with him, and I just fell to the floor and just started sobbing. I had one dog at the time. She came over and just kind of sat by me and curled up, and I just remember crying uncontrollably because I knew that it was bad that time.
Yeah.
Then I called my mom and told her. She's like, come over here right now. So I went to my mom's house and cried some more. And then, once I did the surgery and the treatment and it was gone, I was happy. And then the doctor called me again, and I was in my living room. I was actually selling my house, and I had people in the house looking at it, and the doctor called me and said that it had spread to the lungs, and the biopsy they did in the lungs was positive for melanoma. And I just said, oh, okay. Like, I couldn't cry right there because I had people in the house, and in my head I was thinking, please get out of my house right now. Like, I need to cry about this. But they left, and I was just, I I don't know why I didn't cry that time. I was just like, here we go again. Like, I don't want to do this anymore. I want to die now.
Yeah. I mean, as a cancer patient myself, or as a cancer survivor, I only went through it once. And I remember how it was for me. I can't imagine 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a lot of crying involved, depression. I remember when I did my first treatment, the chemo, they said you have to go on Prozac because this drug can lead people to, become very depressed and kill themselves. And I was like, well, I don't want that.
Yeah.
So I did Prozac for a year. And then at the end, they were like, well, you should keep taking it. I was like, I'm not taking chemo anymore. I don't want to take it. So I stopped it, even though they were like, no, it's not. You need to continue taking it. I was like, I don't want to. And I stopped.
Did they at that point say you need to take it because of this and this, or they just kept saying you need to take it?
No, you need
explanation.
To take it. You have a lot going on, was their reasoning.
Oh, really?
I'm like, well, yeah, I know I have a lot going on, but I don't want to take this anymore.
Yeah.
And I still felt sad when I was on it. I don't know how it's supposed to make you feel, but I still felt sad and, confused and but I stopped taking it and I didn't notice any difference, really.
I remember people talking about when I was going through cancer, somebody saying something to me about cancer brain.
Oh, yes.
And I was like, what? And it's like it was a real thing. Like you just can't make sense of things. I remember walking around in circles in my house, and that may sound crazy, but you understand it because
I do. I remember times I would be talking like you and I are talking right now. I would be telling you a story, and I had a point to the story, but I would just stop like this. I'd be like, I don't know where I was going with this.
Yeah.
And it happened a lot, and it really scared me because I was like, is this permanent? Like, am I always going to be like this?
Right.
And it was, gosh, I probably felt that for like a year. And I did not like it at all. It's like you're losing control of your mind.
Right. Like, I remember that just speaking, and then you're like, what was I talking about? I remember walking down the street at times because I would walk every morning before I'd go to work. And I remember walking down a street I walked down every day, and I stopped in the middle of the street, like, where the hell am I right now? Like, I just couldn't figure out where I was.
Yeah.
And then it came back, and I was just kept on going. And it's like, wow, this is a real thing. Like, it's just trauma to the brain and to the body. So how did you alleviate a lot of your depression? I mean, you were on medication, of course, for it, but how did you, when you felt these moments of just sheer terror or fear or whatever it was that you were feeling, how did you deal with that?
I don't really remember at the beginning. I know I wasn't using cannabis at the beginning. That didn't come until later, but I honestly don't remember.
Did the doctors ever talk to you about it? Like, did they ever, they never said you want to go see a therapist or any support? Nothing. They never said, let's get you into a cancer support group. Wow.
Not that I can recall. No. So I just kind of dealt with it at home. I was married at the time. I'm divorced now, but it's hard when nobody knows what you're going through,
right.
really. And they don't, the time I was diagnosed, the second time, I remember getting in the shower and I was crying in the shower, but I had like my music on, and I remember my ex-husband knocking on the door and saying, "Are you crying in there?" I'm like, "No, I'm fine." But I was like crying, probably the hardest I've ever cried in my life. And, I watched a lot of TV, and the thing I would do, like 5 o'clock would roll around and be like, "I'm ready for bed now. I don't want to be awake anymore. I just want to sleep, because if I'm sleeping, I'm not going to feel this."
Right.
So it was, I was never diagnosed with depression, but I felt it.
Of course.
Most definitely felt it.
I would think that any cancer patient has some type of degree of depression. I went through, the doctor that I was seeing put me through like emotional work. And that did help, but gosh, I felt the same thing. Sometimes I just came home and go straight to bed. So I didn't want to deal. I didn't want to think. I didn't want to, you don't want to deal with it after a while.
It's very true. I did not want to deal after a while. And I think we talked about this in the previous podcast, that like before every treatment, I just said, this is the last time I'm doing anything. I'm not going to pursue anything else. Right. And then I did. I don't know.
Well, but I mean, it's easy to say until you get to that point, I guess, right? I mean, it's easy to say, well, I'm never going to do this again, or But how did you have any friends or any, because I was connected to you, actually. I think you were the first person that Tiffany connected me to
I think so, yeah.
when I got diagnosed. And so I was so grateful to be able to talk to someone that understood. Did you have that? Any friends, family members, anybody that could say, yes, I know what that was like, or?
No, I didn't. The first time I was in college, and
Yeah,
it's
you're
college
young.
kids,
Right.
they can't possibly understand. My roommate in college, her mom had, I think it was ovarian cancer, and while we were living together, it came back, and she ended up passing away. And I felt like we connected a little bit because of that, but it was still a little bit different. But I felt like she understood.
Yeah.
But other than that, not really. I didn't have anybody else that was sick. It was
And
just me.
that's the hard part is I had a lot of people, which you might have too, like, oh, my mom went through cancer, so I know what it's like. And while I felt so, my heart went out to them for what they went through. But then I thought when it's in your own body, it's a completely different thing.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what to, because you have to make these decisions of what am I going to do? How am I going to take care of this? How am I going to, and there's days you just want to give up. I did.
Sure. Yeah. There were a lot of days I wanted to give up.
Yeah.
Just like this sucks, to put it, just bluntly. This sucks, and it sucks that I have to go through it. The treatment sucks. I hate my doctors. I hate going to the doctor every day. They're not doing anything for me. They're just telling me I'm going to die. And I was just completely done after a while.
But you had this fire in you, Allie, that just obviously kept you just going. And I'm sure you probably didn't feel it at the times, or you were just wanting to give up and I don't want to do this anymore. But that fire was in there. And look at you now.
Yep.
You're here.
Cancer free.
I know. We're smiling, and
Yep.
it's so great to see you doing so well. And, after just years, because it was a span of how many years? Really? I mean, I know you had the 10 years in between, but it's still there. So you were diagnosed.
I was diagnosed in September of 2014. The tumor had been there for probably 6 months before they.
And that was the second time, right?
The second time,
Yeah.
before they took it out. And then, if you want to count the reconstruction, it's been 5 years of doing treatment and surgeries, and 5 years.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, you had many, many years of just, because I think
Being
once
sick,
you,
yeah.
well, and then after the first time of going through the chemo and the surgeries, and they said, oh, it's gone, it's not coming back, it's still in your mind, I would imagine.
Yeah, it's still on my mind now.
Right.
Basically, I've been told it will probably come back, and I always think about it. Like, any pain that I have, I'm like, is that cancer?
Right.
Like, what is it? And I don't want to be a hypochondriac, but that's what saved me in the first place. So,
right.
I mean, I wasn't a hypochondriac. There was an actual problem, but people probably were like, oh, she's just nervous because she thinks it's coming back. It's probably not that. And then it ended up being that. So now I'm kind of like on edge when I have, anything that bothers
Doesn't
me.
feel right because you know your body. So let's fast forward then to this last round after you stopped, you were on palliative care, you're pretty much, they were like, there's nothing we can do. And then you found cannabis. So you were only doing cannabis and diet
Correct. Yeah.
for 3 months.
Yeah. Well, probably from April until, I think I started around April, and then the clear scan came in August. April.
Okay. So
That's 4 months. Yeah.
How did you feel while doing the cannabis? I mean, did you feel different thought patterns, or did you feel depression when you were using cannabis at that point?
I felt it sometimes, but
Yeah.
I wasn't using it all that much. I was using what the guy that gave me the cannabis, I was using how much he told me to use. And what I did notice was if I took too much, I definitely felt it, and I remember laughing a lot. And I'm like, hey, this is
a good thing.
This is awesome.
Yeah.
Like, I have all these problems, but I really don't care. Like, this is cool. I
Yeah.
like laughing.
Right.
So that was kind of probably the first time that I'm like, hey, maybe I can use this to help with the depression and like the horrible feelings that
Good.
I'm feeling.
Yeah. I won't use the term on air, but it just made me not give a blank about anything. That's what I always said to people when it
yeah.
did. It just, It did take that edge off. So I think cannabis definitely can do, but everybody's different. And,
They are.
you had the great exact formula you needed, it sounds like.
Yeah. And, I just had this last surgery, and it was probably, I think it was more difficult than the one where they took the tumor out. The reconstruction was horrible. And I remember being in the recliner chair, and I just laying there. I'm like, this is awful. I hate my life. I don't want to move. I don't want to do anything.
Yeah.
And then a friend of mine works in the cannabis industry. He's like, why don't you take it for, depression? And I said, oh, okay. So I took it, and I felt instantly better. And I would do
Good.
it every night. And not only did it help with the depression, help with my pain immensely.
Right.
Because they were giving me kind of heavy duty painkillers, and those made me feel very loopy and
Right.
just drowsy all the time. The cannabis didn't do that, and I was
good.
able to switch over to regular painkillers, not prescription, and just use the cannabis, and I was fine.
Oh, good. Well, that's good to know. I mean, that's good
Yeah.
for people to hear, I think. So I want to switch gears a little bit because Allie is in a documentary now. So can you tell everybody? I watched it, you guys. It's very powerful. I think I cried through half of it. So tell everybody about the documentary.
So the gentleman that helped me, he supplied the oils for me when I was going through my battle. He teamed up with some filmmakers, and they did a documentary on him. So it was about him, but he invited, I think there were 3 of us. So 3
There
of the
was,
people
yeah.
that he helped, we all came together, and we told our stories on air. And then he also had some doctors that were on the documentary, but it's a very powerful documentary. It's on Amazon Prime, and it's called, I don't want to mess this up, I think it's Cancer versus Cannabis. So you should check it out. It was great doing it, and it was wonderful to see that I wasn't the only one that this man helped. And
Right.
I was remission number 50 for him, and now I think
so amazing.
he's close to 70 remissions now, full remissions, no evidence of disease. And one of the gentlemen in the documentary, he was also kind of knocking on death's door, and they were able to bring him back with cannabis.
You guys need to check it out. Amazon Prime, Cannabis, or Cancer versus Cannabis, or Cannabis versus Cancer. It's one of those,
It's
right?
one of those, yeah. I can't quite recall.
But you might even be able to type in your name, Allie Beecher.
You might
Possibly.
be able to, because he put starring Allie Beecher,
Woo-hoo!
in the documentary, and then the other people that were in it with me are also starring. So maybe you can find it that way. I'm not sure. I haven't tried.
ALIBECHER. So you guys need really, I mean, it's truly, being a cancer survivor myself, of course, it hits me a little bit harder than, those that haven't gone through it, because I just know that battle, but not your battle. I mean, you just, again, that fire in you is just brighter than you realize, Allie. I mean,
Yeah,
thank you for coming and sharing this again.
Thank you for having me again, everybody.
Yeah. You guys, you need to look out for Allie. We're talking about that. We need to get her out there talking about her story more, because it's just so inspirational. And I just want to scream it from the rooftops how powerful her story is. So thank you again. And please make sure that if you do know somebody that's going through some depression, that you reach out to them. Make sure you let them know they're not alone. We just need to be here to support each other. So it's definitely a very serious issue that we need to look out for. And, different things work for different people. So we just all need to reach out for what works. So anyway, thanks for coming again today and being such a great part of the My Jane community. A little quote that I have is, "The world breaks everyone, and afterward, some are strong at the broken places." That's by Ernest Hemingway. And come back next week for some leading ladies in this industry. We will be talking about jobs and working in the cannabis space. So come back next week. Please share this story, and we thank you for being here. Have a great day.
Thanks for tuning in to My Jane, My Story. If you want to learn more, you can join the My Jane community at myjane.com. Get instant access to our Facebook group, Facebook community, educational resources, and updates on My Jane products and special events. And for personal attention right now, you can also pick up the phone and call 833 MyJane2. That's MyJane2. And speak to your own wellness concierge, because it's time to own your wellness. Be well.
Imagine what it would feel like to lose everything. Your job, your home, your family, your dignity. This has happened to thousands of the men, women, veterans, and young adults we serve at Working Wardrobes. What do we do to help? We provide career development services, life skills workshops, job skills training. We provide the perfect interview outfit, and we get clients placed in jobs. Call Working Wardrobes, 714-210-2460.